You are standing at the edge of a shallow pit. It is about 70,000 years ago. You are somewhere in what will one day be called South Africa. The sun is setting. Your hands are covered in red ochre. And in the pit at your feet is the body of someone you knew. You don't fully understand what death is. You have no written religion. You have no priest. You have no rule book telling you what to do next. And yet, you dig. You place flowers. You sprinkle red pigment. You curl the body into a sleeping position. And then you cover them up. So here is the question that should stop you cold. Why do humans bury their dead? This is the story of how burial began. And here is the thing nobody tells you. It almost certainly did not start as a religious act. It probably started as something far more practical and far stranger. And the real mystery is not the ritual. The mystery is that we do it at all, because almost nothing else on Earth does. Let's start there. What do other animals do with their dead? Mostly, nothing deliberate. They leave them. Nature is efficient that way. Elephants are the famous exception. They return to bones. They touch them. They sometimes carry them. Chimpanzees have been observed guarding a dead infant for days after death. Crows hold what look like vigils. But none of them dig a pit. None of them place objects with the body. None of them mark the spot. That combination, deliberate interment, plus grave goods plus repeated ritual, appears to be exclusively human. Or close to it, because this is where it gets interesting. We are not the only humans who ever lived. Neanderthals buried their dead too, maybe. And that single word, maybe, is the source of one of the most heated debates in all of paleoanthropology. The site is called Shanidar Cave. It is in the mountains of northern Iraq. And in the 1950s, a researcher named Ralph Salicki dug up something remarkable. He found the remains of a Neanderthal man, roughly 60,000 years old, buried, apparently, with flowers. Pollen clusters from at least 7 plant species were found concentrated around the body. Salicki called him the first flower burial. It was a beautiful headline, and it was probably wrong. Later analysis pointed to a much less romantic explanation. Burrowing rodents, Persian gerds specifically, they hoard flowering plants in underground nests, and their tunnels ran right through the burial site. So the pollen might have had nothing to do with the burial, or it might have, we genuinely do not know. But here is what we do know. Neanderthals at Shanidar were buried intentionally. The body was positioned. The pit was dug. Other Neanderthal sites confirm the same pattern. La Pharisee in France, Kabara Cave in Israel, dozens of individual burials across Europe and the Middle East. Neanderthals buried their dead. The flower debate is about how elaborate the ritual was, not whether burial happened at all. Now back to our own species. The earliest confirmed modern human burial is a child, found at a site called Pangaya Seti in Kenya, about 78,000 years old. The child was roughly 3 years old, curled into a fetal position, head resting on a cushion of some kind of soft material, deliberately placed, deliberately covered. Think about that for a second. 78,000 years ago, a family lost a 3-year-old, and they did not leave the body to scavengers. They prepared it. They treated it with care. They said goodbye in some way we can only guess at. That is not an animal behavior. That is something new in the history of life on Earth. So why did it start? The honest answer is we don't fully know, but researchers have some strong theories. The simplest one is practical. A body left in a small camp attracts predators. It spreads disease, covering it protects the living. This almost certainly played a role, but it doesn't explain the grave goods. It doesn't explain the positioning. Sanitation doesn't arrange a child on a soft cushion. A deeper theory involves social bonds. Humans form extraordinarily intense attachments, more than almost any other primate. When a band of 30 people loses one of their own, that is a wound to the group. Burial may have been the first tool for managing grief. A shared act that said, we acknowledge this. We honor this, we are still a group. There is also a third theory that rarely gets mentioned. Fear. Some researchers think early burial was driven partly by a fear of the dead. Not ghosts, exactly. But the uncanny sense that a person is gone, and yet the body remains. Covering it resolves that cognitive dissonance. Out of sight, the presence is contained. The world makes sense again. Now here is where the story takes a genuinely wild turn. In 2013, researchers in South Africa discovered a species called Homo naledi, found deep in a cave system called the Rising Star Cave. Accessible only through a passage, 18 centimeters wide. You'd have to squeeze through headfirst in the dark. At the end of that squeeze, hundreds of bones, Homo naledi was not modern human. Its brain was tiny, about the size of an orange, one-third the size of yours. And yet the lead researcher, Lee Berger, argues that naledi was deliberately placing its dead in this remote chamber, which would push intentional body disposal back further than any burial we know, and would mean a creature with a tiny brain was doing something we thought required a big one. To be clear, this is contested. Many paleoanthropologists are skeptical. The bones could have washed in. They could have been dragged by scavengers. The evidence is real. The interpretation is debated. But the debate itself tells us something important. The urge to do something with the dead might be older than our species. Back to our own ancestors, because once modern humans started burying the dead, they couldn't stop adding things. Grave goods at Sungir, Russia, roughly 34,000 years ago. Researchers found the burials of an older man and two adolescents. Together, the three bodies were covered in over 13,000 mammoth ivory beads. Each bead required about an hour of work to make. That is over 13,000 hours of labor. For people who would never wear those beads again. That is not sanitation. That is not grief management. That is belief. The grave goods suggest these people thought the dead were going somewhere. Somewhere that required tools. Somewhere that required status markers. Somewhere that required ivory beads. Afterlife thinking at least 34,000 years old. Probably much older. And then there is the ochre. Red ochre is an iron oxide pigment. It looks like dried blood. It shows up in burial sites across 3 continents, spanning hundreds of thousands of years. Nobody knows exactly why. The leading ideas, blood symbolism, life, death, the afterlife, preservation of the body, or simply a pigment that mattered because it was red and red things matter to human eyes. We just don't know. And that unknowing is part of what makes it haunting. Here is what burial actually reveals. Not religion, not just grief. It reveals a very specific kind of mind. A mind that grasps the future. You can only mourn someone if you understand that they are gone. You can only bury someone with grave goods if you conceive of a place for them to go. Both require mental time travel, the ability to model a future that has not happened yet. And there's another layer under that. Burial requires what psychologists call theory of mind, the understanding that other people have inner lives, feelings, experiences, a perspective. You don't care for a body unless you believe the person who inhabited it mattered. Not just mattered to you, mattered in themselves. That is a staggeringly abstract idea, and it is baked into the first shovelful of dirt. Now, when did actual religion enter the picture? That is a harder question. Burial proves symbolic thinking. It does not prove gods. But the presence of grave goods suggests an afterlife concept was forming well before any organized religion we know of. The first cities appear about 5,000 years ago. The oldest grave goods are 6 times older than that. Whatever humans believed about death, they believed it long before they could write it down. One of the strangest things about burial is how different, and yet how similar it is everywhere. In Siberia, the dead were buried with dogs. In Egypt, with gold and gods and elaborate maps of the afterlife. In prehistoric Japan, bodies were placed in shell middens. In parts of ancient Europe, the dead were excarnated first, left on platforms for birds to strip, then buried. The method varies wildly. The impulse does not. Think about your own culture's death rituals, whatever they are. The clothes the body is dressed in, the objects placed in the coffin, the flowers, the words spoken over the grave, the idea that the person is somehow still present watching, aware. You are running software that is at least 78,000 years old, probably much older. Here is the payoff. Of all the things that set humans apart, burial might be the most human. Not language, not fire, not tools. All of those have partial animal parallels. But the decision to treat the dead as if they still matter, as if they deserve care, as if they are going somewhere, that combination is vanishingly rare in nature. What burial really says is this: we love the dead, we fear death, and we refuse to let those two facts just sit there, unaddressed. So we dig a hole, we say something, we put flowers in, and we walk away because we have to. That is what it looks like when a species invents meaning. The next time you are at a grave, or you see a funeral on a screen, or you catch yourself thinking about someone who is gone, know that you are doing something ancient. Something that started before civilization, before writing, before religion as we know it. You are being curiously human. There are so many more questions like this one. Questions hiding in the everyday things we do. Stick around if you want answers.